Most cordless vacuums put the motor and dustbin up here, near the handle. The Bissell Air Ram does the opposite. Everything is down here, at the base. That one design choice changes everything about this vacuum. How it feels, how it cleans, what it's good at, and what it struggles with. I've run it through my full test suite. Hard floors, carpet, deep cleaning, hair wrap, edge cleaning, crevice pickup, noise, and the results are honestly a mix of surprisingly good and genuinely disappointing. Let's get into it. So the big thing with the Air Ram is this base motor setup. The motor, dustbin, filter, and battery all sit right here at the bottom, behind the brush roll. What does that actually mean for you? The handle weighs about 1 pound. Pushing this vacuum around is almost effortless. Your arm doesn't get tired the way it does with a Dyson or a Shark when you're holding 3, 4, or 5 pounds near the handle. It also stands up on its own. No wall mount needed, just park it in a corner. And because the motor sits right next to the brush roll, there's almost no distance for air to travel. On most thick vacuums, air has to go all the way up a long wand to reach the motor. And every inch of that tube costs you airflow. The Air Ram skips that entirely. But, and this is important, it only measured 28.52 CFM in my airflow test. And there's only one power setting. No boost, no max mode. What you see is what you get. That number is going to come up a lot in this review. Alright, let's talk about where the Air Ram actually impresses me. On hard floors, it scored 99.85%. Coffee grounds 100%, quinoa 100%, pet litter 99.6%, Quaker oats 99.8%. Nearly perfect. The cleaning head has this gate mechanism at the front. On the forward push, the gate opens so bigger debris can pass through. On the backward pull, it closes, creating a tighter seal for finer stuff. A simple mechanical trick, but it works really well. Carpet was just as strong. On both low pile and mid pile, I got 100% across the board on oats, coffee grounds, and quinoa. Pet litter was 98.8% on low pile and 100% on mid pile. Overall surface cleaning score, 99.85% on hard floors, 99.85% on carpet. For a vacuum at this price, with only 28.52 CFM, that's impressive. Now deep cleaning. I embed 100 grams of sand into medium pile carpet. Vacuum it up and weigh that comes out. The Air Ram scored 91.45%. That's a solid result, not top tier. Vacuums with 50 plus CFM will do better here. But for a budget-friendly vacuum with one power setting, pulling out over 91% of embedded sand is decent. Not something you'd rely on for deep cleaning, but good enough for daily cleaning. The motor at the base design helps here. Even though the raw airflow number is low, the short distance between the motor and brush roll means very little of that airflow is wasted. So if the Air Ram only did surface cleaning and light deep cleaning, I'd be recommending it pretty easily. But there's more to the story. I test hair pickup at different lengths, 5 inches, 7, 9, 11. On hard floors, 98% at 5 inches, 86% at 7, 49% at 9, and just 34% at 11 inches. I didn't bother with 12-inch hair. At 34%, there was no point. On carpet, it was even worse. 87% at 5 inches, 48% at 7, and just 11% at 9 inches. 11%. The brush roll has short, stubby bristles spaced far apart with no anti-tangle system. No comb, no counter-rotating element, nothing to strip hair off the brush. Once hair gets long enough to wrap around it, it stays there. If anyone in your household has shoulder-length hair, or longer hair, or you have pets that shed long strands, this vacuum is gonna give you problems on both surfaces. This is where the 28.52 CFM really shows its limits. One side effect of the low airflow is debris getting stuck inside the nozzle chamber if you remove the dustbin. Because there isn't enough airflow to push everything into the bin during normal use, dust and smaller particles settle in the area between the brush roll and the dustbin opening. You won't notice it while vacuuming, but when you pull the dustbin out to empty it, you'll see residual dirt sitting there. A simple workaround, let the motor run for a few extra seconds before you switch it off and remove the dustbin. The extended airflow pushes more of that residual debris into the bin. It doesn't eliminate the problem completely, but it reduces the mess. Just be mindful when vacuuming heavier debris like pet litter or sand. These particles are more likely to stay lodged in the nozzle, and tipping the vacuum to remove the dustbin can spill them back onto the floor. As scattered quinoa, into a quarter-inch crevice in my floor. The Air Ram picked up zero. Nothing. Multiple passes, nothing came out. So I brought out my Dyson V12 Detect to compare. On auto mode, the V12 also measures 28.52 CFM, the exact same airflow. It picked up most of the quinoa. And when I switched to max mode, 48.38 CFM, it cleared everything. So at identical airflow, the V12 still did better. That tells me it's not just an airflow problem. The Air Ram's brush roll design, those short stubby bristles spaced far apart, can't agitate debris out of a narrow gap the way a denser brush pattern can. If your floors have gaps, crevices, or uneven seams, the Air Ram won't help you there. One more thing I noticed during testing. On some passes, the Air Ram left visible trace of debris behind it. You can see it here after the forward pass. There's stuff left on the floor that the vacuum just didn't grab. This goes back to the low airflow. At 28.52 CFM, with no boost mode, this vacuum doesn't always have enough pulling power to capture everything the brush roll kicks up on the first pass. A second pass usually gets it, but it's something you'll notice in daily use. Let's talk about runtime. Bissell claims up to 40 minutes. In my testing, it lasted 28 minutes and 44 seconds on hard floor and 30 minutes and 11 seconds on carpet. That's about 10 minutes below the claim. And here's something unusual. It actually lasted longer on carpet than on hard floor. That's the opposite of what I see in almost every other cordless vacuum I test. Either way, 29 to 30 minutes is what you get. That's enough for a small apartment. But if you have a bigger home, you're going to run out of battery before you're done. The good news, the battery is detachable. You can buy a spare and swap it in. But that's an extra cost. The cleaning head goes completely flat under furniture. Beds, couches, coffee tables, that's great. But it's also wide, really wide. And in tight spaces, around chair legs, in narrow gaps, under low overhangs, it's too bulky to fit. You end up bumping into things and having to reposition. The same wide nozzle that covers a lot of open floor space becomes a liability when your home has a lot of furniture. That low clearance also means large debris sometimes gets pushed ahead of the nozzle instead of being picked up. I noticed this with bigger pieces. The front of the cleaning head would push them forward rather than letting them pass into the brush area. It's not a deal breaker, but it's annoying when it happens. The dustbin is only 0.6 liters. For a vacuum that's designed only for floors, no handheld, no attachment, that's small. You'll be emptying it more often than you expect, especially on carpet where it picks up a lot of fine dust. At 75.6 decibels, the Air Ram is louder than you'd expect for a vacuum with this little airflow. For comparison, some vacuums with twice the CFM aren't much louder. It's not ear-splitting, but it's noticeable, especially since you don't get the cleaning power you'd normally associate with that noise level. And finally, there's no handheld mode. No attachments, no crevice tool, no upholstery brush. This vacuum cleans floors and nothing else. If you need to vacuum stairs, furniture, or your car, you'll need a separate handheld. That's an additional purchase. This is the section that concerns me the most. I bought this vacuum in 2023. I didn't use it every day, far from it. But even with light use, the materials have started to break down. Part of the rubber gate, the one I just praised for the clever open and close mechanism, started tearing off. The seal around the dustbin came apart during testing. The felt seal on a cleaning nozzle fell off after I removed the brush roll a few times. That's 3 separate components showing material degradation within 2 years, on a vacuum with a 2-year warranty. If these parts are wearing out on my unit with light use, I'd expect worse from one that's being used daily. And then there's the filter. Look at this. This is after 1 round of cleaning tests, not months of daily use. 1 testing session. The Air Ram uses a single washable foam filter and it gets dirty fast. That's partly because there's no pre-filter or multi-stage filtration to catch larger particles before they reach it. Everything goes through 1 filter. Now the good news is it's washable. You rinse it, let it dry, and put it back. You don't have to buy replacements, but you have to clean it often. If you skip a few sessions, airflow drops. And on a vacuum that's already working with just 28.52 CFM, you can't afford to lose anymore. The cleaning performance is real. The durability, that's a question mark. So here's where I land on the Bissell Air Ram 1984. The cleaning numbers are legitimately good. a 97.51% overall score, near perfect surface pickup, and 91.45% deep cleaning from a vacuum at this price point is hard to argue with. But the real-world experience tells a more complicated story. You get about 30 minutes of runtime, not 40. The wide nozzle cleans open spaces well, but struggles in tight spots. Long hair is a problem, especially on carpet. Crevice pickup is basically non-existent, and the build materials are showing wear within the warranty period. The Bissell Air Ram had the potential to be a solid low to mid-range option for cleaning wide open hard floor or carpet spaces. And in that specific scenario, a small to medium home, mostly open floor plans, short-haired household, it actually delivers. But the runtime limitation means you're cleaning a limited area before recharging. The lack of a handheld mode means buying a second device for above floor cleaning. And the durability concerns mean you might be dealing with worn out seals and cracked plastic sooner than you'd want. If you buy this vacuum, get the extended warranty. The performance is there, the longevity is the gamble. That's my take on the Bissell Air Ram 1984. If you found this useful, hit subscribe. I test every vacuum the same way, with real data, so you can see exactly what you're getting before you spend your money. I'll see you in the next one.